In the last video, we used the Merchar Copilot to build a Q4 dashboard from 6 years of our advertising data. Today, we finished the job. We're feeding it our real sales data and having it build automations in Merchar that fix what it finds, and then turning the whole thing into a polished report you could send to a client. Okay, so I have my sales data. I have the last 4 years of data in CSVs that is just sales per ASIN for November to December, the same data that we care about here. Now, I could just drag and drop those CSVs into our chat here, let them deal with it. But instead, what I'm going to do is drop those into our Copilot. So here's our Copilot. It's just a folder of different files and folders that Claude has access to. Things like references on how to write the Merchar segment logic, how to format things like that. But we also have a user folder we can use. And we can see here even the dashboard that it started to build here, this HTML file. So what I'm going to do is drop it into our user folder. But because this is historical data, it's not going to change. And I'm going to put it in here to live so that it can reference it in any of its future sessions that we may need and draw from that without having to, rebuild it and waste context every time. So I'm going to just create a new folder here and let's call this Q4 sales. I'm just going to open this up and drop in my sales reports. And I have one for the last 4 years. So from 2022, 23, 24, 25. And these are just November to December since that's our main Q4 that we're concerned with. So I'm going to give it its next prompt. Let's do something like the new sections are good. I think we're missing some context still. I just added sales reports for the last 4 years. Each one is November to December. And I put that in the user folder under a Q4 sales folder, so you have access to all that. The 24% target is my overall current target ACoS, but I'm not sure if that makes as much sense to use when it comes to Q4. And with some of these products with the rising ACoS, we may need to be more aggressive. I don't want to be unprofitable when it comes to overall sales, but when it comes to rebuilding, it may be worth having a more aggressive target ACoS. Can you build in the total sales versus advertising information into this dashboard, or how would you go about doing that? So there's our prompt. Again, just kind of rambling to it. I'm giving it some leeway because we can keep adjusting things. We're not making any changes to the account. We're building a dashboard, and now it has that data available to it. So let's keep running with this. All right, let's see what we got here. So a new section, ads and context. Let's check this out. Ads and context. Okay. It's kind of depressing to look at. And most of it's built on one product, which is kind of the case in a lot of situations, different life cycles. And so it gives us our break-even ACoS. So that's our royalty. And so this is a merch by Amazon business. So they pay out our royalty, which is essentially our profit on it. Let's make this a little bit better. Let me see what it's saying here. Can we afford to be more aggressive? Yes, with specific guardrails. It's kind of the same thing I already put in the dashboard. So the 34 to 40% ACoS is defensible on the rank building products. Treating royalties as my true margin, which it is. This dashboard is starting to have a lot of noise, and I want this really to be focused around Q4. Can we make this easier to use? For example, let's make each year part of the navigation where we can click on the year and it drills down to just information on that one. At the same time, let's make it match our branding. I'll attach a logo for you to use. So this might be for all you agencies out there. If you are creating dashboards for your own clients, we can add in logos. It's using a dark theme. I got a black logo here. Let's change this to a lighter theme as well. All right, let's see what it comes up with now. And this is part of the fun. Just be able to build your own dashboard however it makes sense to you. And again, just going back and forth with it till you get something that meets your goals. All right, so some big changes here. Let's see what we got. We got an overview and we got different tabs. This is one of the coolest thing about these HTML dashboards. It's not like a PDF report where it's just a single page. They're really more like interactive applications. What to do. Okay. This is cool. And we can drill down to each year. All right, let's take a look at this overview. I like this what to do. We could almost turn this into a to-do list. Another thing I'm thinking here is that now that it has access to all the ASINs that have sold versus what have sold with ads, there's probably some products that have gotten organic traction that haven't launched campaigns for that we could add to it as well. And the other side of a dashboard is that like it should be for insights, of course, but really actions to take from those insights. And it's giving some of it here. But because this is connected to Merchar can actually run these actions and we can build logic in to run these actions. So I think that's going to be our next step. A couple things here, and I'm going to keep trying my luck in this same session. Again, my recommendation is to keep it into shorter sessions, and we could do that. Actually, yeah, let's do that. I'll demo that, what that might look like. Really, we want it to save the, actually, maybe let's do the segments first, because we can actually use those segments to drive the data for this dashboard to rebuild it, especially if it's something that's going to change over time. With this historical data, maybe it's not as important. Like, this isn't going to change in 2022 what this data is, but it's still useful to have that stored. We could just have that saved in our Copilot pack as an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to give it a few different tasks here. The context is getting pretty long on this session, and we want to be able to hand this off to a different session. For the historical data that's building this dashboard, let's export that to a CSV in our user folder so that we don't have to keep pulling that data if we want to reuse it. And I want to build segments in Merchar for anything that would make sense, like things we want to be able to take actions on and rebuild this so we don't have to keep creating new logic for it. Additionally, I think one area that we could be missing here is with our sales data that you now have access to, there's likely some ASINs that are selling that we don't have campaigns running for. I think it'd be a good idea to have a to-do list of products we need to launch campaigns for. And similar to that, let's turn the action items on the overview page into a to-do list as well, if that makes sense to do. All right, so quite a few different things, but we should be able to, when it's done, move to a different session without losing any of the important data and context that we have. All right, so it looks like it's working on the segments. Let's have it build both. Why not? We're asking a lot of it already. What's a little bit more? Okay, now that we're back in Merchar, we can see the segments that it built for us. Our new Q4, the comeback rank push, and reactivate proven winners. And the best part about this is we can go into each one of these and preview exactly what it would do before it actually runs and make any changes to it. Here we can see the segment logic that it's working off of. And this is the biggest difference between Merchar and any other tools that are connecting your AI agents to your data. The segment logic is built like a programming language. It runs the same way every single time. When you run it on Monday, the answers you get are going to be the exact same as if you ran it on Wednesday. The AI isn't building its own fresh logic every single time it runs. And in this way, we can see the thought process and what it's going to do and make any changes to it. So here we can see that it's looking at certain date ranges of orders. It's got some logic in here to check for ACoS and orders and some different filters to make sure things are enabled. And then in the preview, we can see what it's going to do. So in this one with the comeback rank push, this is increasing bids 15% once a week. And here we can see what the current bid is and what the bid preview is. And this is great because we can see, okay, is this actually taking actions that I want it to do, or do we want to make any changes first? Now, with it exporting the data, we should be able to go into a new session and continue on where we left off. So if we were to do that, I'm going to create a new chat, make sure we're in the right project. I think just review it is a good idea, especially with how long that session got. Definitely much longer. I like to keep my sessions pretty tight to the more context you're giving and overwhelming your AI agents with, whether it's Claude, Codex, whatever you're using, that's when you start running into issues with like hallucinations. It's got a lot of data, and we fed it a lot of data too. So let's start with just a review, and I want to see if it can do a little bit nicer of a design. Let's continue on with our Q4 command center. I want you to give it an overall review and what we can do to further improve it. And if this was being sent to a client, what would be missing? Also, is it possible that you can pull our style guide from Claude Design to implement that into the dashboard design? All right, let's see where it takes it from here. All right, let's see what it started off with. All right, what's strong? Spine is good. Recoverable structural loss split is a real insight. Break-even economics section shows its work. And the triage to-do flow gives an operator somewhere to actually go. Okay. Where it's weak. Off-brand visually. Okay, yeah. Source of truth. So it didn't have embedded in, it looks like, actual pull dates, which is fine. With historical data, it's not going to matter, but I can see for a client why this would be important. What's missing? Cover summary. Yeah. Projected keyboard target scenario. Dollars per action. All right, let's just see what it comes up with as it adds these into the build. All right, so pretty big rebuild here. So it reskinned it. Client as a deliverable layer. Okay. Data as a meta bar, so it's just information on the reporting. Concentration risk. Okay. Methodology, so we can actually see how it's coming up with all this. So pretty similar to what we had. A couple additions. Our to-do list. I just love this. Be able to turn these into little mini apps is super cool. And it offered to build this as a one-pager. Yeah, let's build that as a one-pager and wrap this up before this gets too long. Yes, produce the single-page PDF. And here's our single-page report. So basically just took the overview. Maybe not ideal. Maybe we want to have them turn it into... Can you take the information from our dashboard and turn it into an actual PDF we'd want to send to a client? This just looks like a screenshot, and that's not something I want to send to a high-valued client. Fable probably would have caught that. Let's just do a sample. Polished. All right, so we have our document. Let's take a look at this. This is what's calling client grade. So here's our cover page, executive summary, recommendations. I mean, it looks professional for sure. all the different things, and then the appendix with the methodology, all built from a dozen different prompts. And then one of the best parts about this is once we dial this into how we want, we now have an asset that we can use to as a template to send to all of our different clients, all built from actual data from your account using Mershar segments. So that's the full build. Dashboard, a command center with a to-do list, segments in Mershar doing the work for us, and even a client-ready report, all from about a dozen prompts. If you want this on your own account, grab a demo at mershar.com or start the 14-day free trial. And if you missed part one, the full dashboard build is in the link in the description.